What's going on, everybody? David here, back with another video. So today we're going to do a reaction video to Mark Meadows. He was on Meet the Press yesterday. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm going to give you kind of the what's going to be happening in September. So since this week, we'll start September. We're going to start talking about some things that are going to be going on and some things that you're going to be hearing more and more about as the month progresses, because we have some timetables that are definitely going to need to be addressed. So we're going to talk about that. But first off, if you guys can hit that like button, I really appreciate it. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. We do daily videos and live streams on the weekends. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is what is going on in September. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on in September when it comes to the stimulus package. And some of these things aren't directly related to the stimulus package, but they will have an impact on the stimulus package. So first thing, stimulus check talk, stimulus package talk. We're going to hear more and more about that. We'll start seeing them negotiating, as we've already seen a couple of phone calls, but we're going to start seeing them actually sitting at the table and then coming out like they do at Capitol. They come out and do their little spiel about, okay, we're closed or we're not closed, and we're at an impasse, all this stuff. We're going to start hearing more and more about that. So the Congress, they go back in session on September 8th. So that's when we'll start hearing. We'll probably start hearing more. Now, Nancy Pelosi is there right now. And so when it comes down to the actual negotiations, they can happen. Like, they can be in person right now because she is there. But we'll just have to see when they actually physically get together again and start doing some negotiating. Budget talks. So we're going to start hearing more and more about the budget talks, because September 30th, that's the end of the fiscal year when it comes to the federal government. So they're going to have to fund the government for the next year. And so that's what they're going to be talking about. If they cannot come to a resolution by September 30th, then guess what? We're on a government shutdown. And so that's going to have a huge impact when it comes to stimulus packages, because we're looking at a situation where you have to get this done. You might want to really stress the fact that, hey, we need to get this stimulus package done as well. And so you have that timetable. You can kind of work with that. If you're a politician, you want to kind of put everything together, you can do that. And so we might see some stuff like that. Okay, if we extend it when it comes to the budget, sometimes they'll just extend it for a few months or extend it a month. Politicians are crazy. The federal government, when it comes down to it, they don't always do things that make sense. So they might just extend it for a month just so it's not an issue, and then work on some other stuff. We'll have to see where they go with it. But that will definitely be out there. The airline industry. So you're going to hear more and more about the airline industry, because you're already seeing, if you watch anyone on you, like I travel a lot, so I do watch some of the flight attendants. A lot of them they vlog, they have channels. And so I've been watching a few of them for a while, and it's interesting because they're coming out with their videos now saying that they're going to be furloughed. We're going to start hearing more and more about the airline industry and how they're not going to be able to function the way they normally are, and they're going to be laying people off and things like that. And so as that starts to happen, you're going to see even more and more of a push for funding for the airline industry, which means that if you put it all in the stimulus package like they had in the CARES Act, well, then that will address that issue. So that's going to be something else. The Postal Service funding. So we know the House, a couple of weeks ago, they passed the postal funding money. And so we'll have to see what they do with that. We'll see what the Senate does. Are they going to address it at all? They're just going to not look at that. So that's going to be something that's going to be on the table in September. Also, the skinny bill. The Senate Republicans have been talking about a skinny bill for a while now. We'll have to see if they go anywhere with that. Okay, so they keep talking about they're going to unveil it, but they have not unveiled it in the last 2 weeks. So we'll see where that goes. Enhanced unemployment talks. Enhanced unemployment will be expiring in September. Okay, so once that funding runs out, once the money runs out, then they're going to be done. And so this is going to be something else that they're going to be talking about. And this could potentially get us a stimulus package a little bit faster, because once they run out of money, they're going to need more funding. So that could push the talks when it comes to stimulus package to the forefront. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take a look at this video. So let's go ahead and get started.
Let me ask you, I'm running low on time. I know that perhaps you and Speaker Pelosi may be talking today. The Democrats believe they've come down and they would like to meet you halfway. They believe halfway should be $2.2 trillion, maybe $2 trillion. Are you willing to bring up the number that the president will support?
Well, we brought up the number. I had a conversation with Speaker Pelosi, and even on her $2.2 trillion counteroffer, she can't tell the American people nor me what is in that. I can tell you what is in the offer that the president has made and he's willing to sign. Enhanced unemployment at levels she would agree with. Enhanced help for small businesses at levels she would agree with. Literally help for daycare and hospitals at levels she would agree with, and help for schools at levels she would agree with. Here's the problem is she puts forth a number, suggests that she came down, and yet she's willing to turn down $1.3 trillion of help that goes to the American people because she would rather them have nothing than to give way on what her fantasy objection might be.
What you're suggesting can't pass the Senate, right? The Senate doesn't have a majority support for that as well right now.
I mean, that would require Senator Schumer. As you know, anything in the Senate requires both Democrats and Republicans. But Speaker Pelosi, if she worked with Chuck Schumer, I can tell you all of those things that I just mentioned are available for the American people, and the Speaker Pelosi is saying no.
All right, so there are two things that I want to address here. So, and I keep following Mark Meadows when he talks about the different things that they agree upon. He still has not said stimulus checks. Okay, and some people have said, well, you know what? We already know that stimulus checks will be in there. That's what some people say. The only problem is the skinny bill does not have stimulus checks in it. So there could be a situation where part of the negotiating that's going on, Nancy Pelosi wants more than what Mark Meadows is willing to give when it comes to stimulus checks. And when I say more, I mean the $1,200 per individual, $1,200 per dependent. They might be caught up on that number as well. So it's just interesting that he did not mention that again. This is the third interview that I've seen with him where he has not mentioned that. But that's one thing. And then the other thing, if you caught it at the very end, when he's talking about the senators, like you have to have Democrats and Republicans in order to get this bill through, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. If they have the support with Republicans, just Republicans, which we already know that a large portion of the Republicans do not want another stimulus package. So we know that right now. So if they did, let's just say they did. Let's say you have the 53 Republican senators and they were all on board for another stimulus package. They could get that through without having any Democrats supporting it. Okay. Now they're in a situation where they don't have that. They do have a split within the Republican Party. And Mark Meadows is pretty much saying, let's go with the Democratic Party. Let's go with what the Democrats want as far as we need the Democrats in order to get this done. So I don't care about what the Republicans want. At this point, that's what Mark Meadows is saying, because if you notice the whole discussion, he's not talking about Mitch McConnell at all. He's talking about, okay, if Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer can get together and then they can get the votes, then we can go ahead and push this through. He's not talking about Mitch McConnell at all. He's not even mentioning his name. And so I just find that kind of amazing in a situation where you're representing the White House, Republican-run White House, Republican-run Senate, and you're relying on the Democrats in order to get something done. So, I mean, I guess it's good if you want to look at it that way as far as being bipartisan, but it's a situation where the major problem and the major hangup is within the Senate. It's the Republican senators. And so that's what they're going to have to really focus on. That's why I said Mitch McConnell needs to be in that room. He needs to be in the room because that way he can, because you're still, even if you go with the Democrats, okay, when it comes to the senators, if you're going with the majority of Democrats voting for a bill, then guess what? It's probably going to favor what the Democrats want the most because you're relying more on them for the votes, right? And so when you look at this whole situation, yes, if you're going to rely on the Democrats, well, guess what? You're probably going to have to come up a little bit higher because they want more when it comes to another stimulus package. And so that's where we are. I want to go ahead and go back to it.
Are you going to bring your number up, or is that is 1.3 your final offer?
Listen, we're not going to negotiate here because the speaker has been very clear. When she said 2.2, she said, don't do anything at all, Chuck. I said, what does the 2.2 represent? You know what her response was? I'm not going to tell you. Let me fill in the blanks. That's not a proper negotiation, nor is it anything that the American people accept. In fact, many of her rank and file members don't even accept it.
All right. So, and that was the end of the clip. It's interesting because you have these guys coming on doing these interviews, and they have to know that this question is going to come up, and they just kind of show their cards when they don't answer it. So it's always a tricky question. You saw Chuck Todd ask Mark Meadows, would you come up from that 1.3 trillion? Would you go any higher? And Mark Meadows, of course, said, I'm not going to negotiate over TV. And so that right there is just telling you and telling everyone that he's open to going higher, because if he's not, then he's just going to say, no, I'm not going to go any higher than that. Or we're not going any higher than that. And so by him saying that, by him kind of saying, oh yeah, we're not going to negotiate here, that means that, hey, there's room for negotiation. And so they always get caught up in that. And I've heard that several times when it comes to negotiating, and you always will get the interviewer asking them that question. Well, will you go higher? And they're, oh, I'm not going to negotiate that over the airways or whatever. But that they're kind of telling you, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to, this is not a firm no, this is not a red line, basically. The 1.3 trillion is not a red line. So we'll see where they go. But like I said, if they are relying on the Democrats when it comes to the Senate to get something passed, if they're relying more on the Democrats than the Republicans, then that bill is going to favor the Democrats more than the Republicans. That's just the way it should be. I mean, that's, if you look at it, if the Republicans can go ahead and push something through without any Democrats supporting it, by all means, go ahead and do that. But they can't do that. That's why the leverage right now is with Nancy Pelosi, because she knows the Republicans aren't going to get together and put something through on their own, because they can't. And so she has that leverage, and she can kind of wait it out just a little bit to see what's going on. And eventually the White House is going to have to, they're going to have to up, go even higher than that 1.3 trillion. One more thing that he talked about was the fact that Nancy Pelosi's not telling him what's in the bill or what have you. And I guess there's concern there could be a lot of pork in the bill and all that. Well, this is the beginning stages. We still have more things to come in the future. So when it comes down to it, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer need to get together and figure out, okay, it's going to be let's just say it's $2 trillion. This is what's going to be in it. And then they present that, or I won't even say they, Chuck Schumer presents that to the Senate, and then the Senate votes on it. That's what will happen. So they're going to know exactly what they're voting on. Because right now in the negotiations, they're just talking about, okay, yeah, we agree on this, we agree on that, we agree on this, we don't agree on this. Because eventually you're going to have a bill, and that bill is going to have everything in it. And once that goes to the Senate, then they can vote on it, vote yes, vote no, however they want to do it, and then send it down to the House. They'll vote on it, and then it'll go up to the president. There are going to be some things in there that not everyone is going to like. That's just the way it is. It's just like when I'm ordering a pizza with a bunch of people, some people aren't going to really care too much for some of the toppings, but that's just the way it is. I mean, and if you are if it's the majority is going to rule in this situation. If I'm ordering a pizza and there's 10 people and 7 of us like pepperoni, well, guess what? Pepperoni is probably going to be in that pizza. So even if you don't like pepperoni, you're kind of out of luck because you're outnumbered. So in this situation, if you're going to rely on the Democrats in the Senate to get this passed, then guess what? It's probably going to be geared more towards what the Democrats want. I want to know what you guys think, though. So down below, let me know. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.